Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for coming down here. I want to start by thanking the City of Fargo for accommodating us here with the room. Mr. Mayor, and we've got a couple of your city commissioners here. Thank you both for being here as well. You have to forgive my glasses are getting repaired, so I'm wearing these today, but thank you sincerely for accommodating that. I want to say I've got, along with me traveling today, with me is our Chief Deputy Attorney General for the state of North Dakota, Claire Ness, is here, and BCI Director Lonnie Browska. Lonnie's around here someplace, and a bunch of his henchmen and women from the BCI. We're glad that you're all here. Thank you for being here with us. Cass County Sheriff Jesse Johnner, thank you for being here, Sheriff. He's got people working on this matter as well, as does Chief Dave Zabolski from the Fargo Police Department. Where's there? He's sitting over here, Chief. And then West Fargo Police Department Chief Nielsen is here as well. Chief, thanks. They've all got personnel working on what is now and is going to continue to be, I think, for some little time, resource-intensive matter and investigation. Just wanted to launch us off. The investigation, this investigation began with a report of a student creating and then sharing child sexual abuse material, which we refer to as CSAM, child sexual abuse material, and then sharing that on social media. It's a sensitive matter to investigate, I have to say, because of the setting and because of the ages of so many of the people involved, both as victims and as potential subjects of the investigation. Our immediate focus was, and our immediate focus is going to remain, the safety and the well-being of all of the people that are involved in this matter as we go forward. I'm only today going to be able to give you a broad outline of what it is that we're investigating. And I'm going to do that to the best of my ability. I'll answer some of your questions, but there'll probably be more that I'm not able to answer at this early stage of the investigation. Back in April of 2025, a resource officer with the West Fargo Middle School, that I'm not going to name, with the middle school, was made aware that child sexual abuse materials had been created with reference to an actual middle school child at that same West Fargo school, using her face, but then creating nude images of that young lady. Those images had been, we believe, had been created 2 years prior. She's in middle school now, but they'd been created 2 years prior and were being shared by a high school student. And from there, law enforcement made contact with that high school student, and the matter was brought to the attention of the BCI, and the BCI figured out that it was Snapchat was the social media medium that was being used at that time. So BCI it was West Fargo Police, I should say. Forgive me, I forgot that important step there. West Fargo Police was initially made aware of it. Because of the subject matter of it, West Fargo Police brought it to the BCI, and we went from there. BCI then put together the request and subpoena materials and had communications with Snapchat, which I am happy to inform has been cooperative throughout the investigation. In the months after that, Snapchat was compiling the materials that were being requested under official request mechanisms by the BCI, and by late August of 25, they presented the BCI with what can only be called a web of Snapchat accounts of individuals who had been receiving, in some cases not sharing, in other instances then sharing and broadcasting out to other people these child sexual abuse materials. The BCI has engaged other law enforcement entities in this investigation. I mentioned them before, the Cass County Sheriff's Department, Fargo Police Department, the West Fargo Police Department. We appreciate your resources and expertise. Initially, the work was done to start identifying the victims. And make no mistake about it, these are victims. These young people are having their privacy violated in a way that you can only imagine as it's spreading around, sometimes through images that are completely concocted from artificial intelligence. Sometimes they are actual images of these young people, but they are victims and they are suffering. We've identified the victims in the pictures that we now have, in the images that we now have. I want to be clear. Those victims have not committed a crime. We are not investigating those victims. It's also important to remember, and I know people are grappling with a topic they've heard of before, but maybe are seeing it up close and personal for one of the first times, that it is inappropriate to blame the victim in these instances. Because I want to be clear again, we are not looking at that as a crime. There are young people who, and I leave this to parents and the professionals that are dealing with their own children, their own students, making decisions, poor decisions about creating an image and sharing it with a boyfriend or what have you. Understand that is not what this investigation is about. Those are not the fruits that we are going to take out and then present to the prosecuting authorities in this matter. Those are not of interest to the investigation that is being conducted by our BCI and the other entities that I have named. Some of the victims are already being harassed. They've been harassed even before this came into the purview of law enforcement. And it has to stop. It shouldn't have started. And people have to resist that urge if they have it. Search warrants were secured in recent days and weeks. And it was on September 22nd that the BCI and associated law enforcement entities executed the first of those search warrants on 24 phones. 24 phones that they were led to by the electronic trail from the initial victim up through where it's now arrived at another phone. 24 phones. Those phones are currently being processed. It's an arduous task getting through those phones. As I said, there were 24 that were seized initially. We've gotten through just a fraction of those phones to this point, but the investigation is growing. It's significant when you have that many electronic devices to begin with and that many people potentially involved, and it is growing beyond that. Yesterday, pursuant to another warrant secured by the BCI, a search warrant was executed on 30 additional phones, of which 20-some were brought into custody, taken into law enforcement custody. The parents of each of these subjects of these have been contacted by law enforcement as we go along. Due to the sensitive ages and nature, the parents are contacted, and there have been no interviews yet of subject of these investigations, just with the parents. And our agents have described what they would describe as wide degree of cooperation from the parents. I also want to thank, but share with you what has been termed the significant cooperation and assistance and collaboration of school administrators at Davies and by your superintendent, Mr. Steiner. It is deeply, deeply appreciated for two reasons. One, because it's a very significant legal matter that's being investigated. And two, it informs our judgment about how best to proceed in a very delicate environment of a school full of young kids, the vast majority of whom aren't seen to have any involvement in this matter whatsoever. So we want to thank everyone for that cooperation. That includes a vast, wide array of the parents. And we want to encourage others to conduct themselves in the same way. As I said, the investigation is being led by our BCI in conjunction with the Sheriff's Department and Fargo and West Fargo Police Departments. We are being methodical about this. We're being as swift as we can under the circumstances. As I said, we're being aware and respectful that we are in an education environment where education needs to be taking place, where there are delicate mental health issues to be dealt with in this matter, where there is now, in the wake of all of these revelations, there's tremendous anxiety. We're sensitive to that, and we appreciate the school officials and others who are helping us have eyes on how to proceed. I want to stress again that we are focused keenly on those who encourage the creation, the distribution, sharing of either AI-created or actual photos of victims, and that those victims are very real. Significant numbers of victims, as I said, have been identified. They and their parents have all been spoken to. There have been students who have had to change schools as a result of harassment from this. There are students who are undergoing significant counseling needs as a result of all of this. So we're going to work closely going forward. The schools, as I mentioned, have been involved, the administrators, the teachers, the SROs, the counselors, the parents and the legal guardians, victim services professionals. We're going to maintain, as is our duty, we're going to maintain the integrity of the evidence that we secure. We're going to maintain the integrity of our investigation, which is into the violations of both state and federal laws that clearly apply to some of the conduct that has already come into our view. I do want to stress that because somebody's phone was seized as part of this investigation does not mean that they have committed, that in and of itself means they have committed a crime. Their phones were listed in the search warrant in some instances because it was clear from the information we got from Snapchat that they had received these materials, that they had been sent to them. Our view of this in the Attorney General's office is that is not the kind of case that we're going to be turning over to the prosecuting authorities. The challenges come for people where they, in turn, share it, broadly or with others, or where they participate in the harassment of these young victims. Communication on this matter, I think, is going to be critically important. I do ask you to keep in mind, though, that it is a criminal investigation with special sensitivities, but our communication is going to have to be timed. We're not able to just reveal the whole matter as we go along because it is an ongoing and growing investigation. Again, I want to caution you about rumors, things that people hear, things that people surmise on their own if they heard that, this young person's phone was seized. Some of the phones have already been returned. They've been returned to the young people and their parents who have them, always in conjunction, by the way, with the parents. Our investigation will eventually be presented to the Cass County State's Attorney, Kim Hedvig, and her staff, in her office. I noticed Renata Selzer is here, Assistant State's Attorney, who's been working with our agents on this, and we appreciate their work. The situation, though, is ripe for rumors as you go along. And I would, maybe it's a fool's errand, trying to caution people about that. Don't extrapolate from what you may have heard or what you think you might know about it. In the fullness of time, there will be a parting of ways on this matter with regard to some of the students who will have just been of interest in the investigation, either because they were suspected of committing an offense of some kind or because, in some instances, we suspect there could be evidence of a crime of someone else on their phone. And we go from there. And that's where the cooperation piece of this is so imperative. It is not a situation where law enforcement is casting a big fishing net over Fargo to find out every student that has an inappropriate image on their phone. That is not what this is about. This is not a quest. It's a legal investigation guided by the principles we're always guided by, including formal legal process, where a judge has concluded that it is more likely than not that evidence of a crime can be found in the place or person to be searched. And we go from there. I mentioned the part about victim harassment. It's so important. It's so important in this matter. And to the parents who've been cooperating and talking with our agents, communicating about this, they have our thoughts too, because it's a really challenging time for families. So we're going to proceed on all of that. I should have mentioned before I didn't. I'm going to go right now. I'm going to talk to you about some of the statutes under state law that are being investigated as a part of this. This is not an exhaustive list, but this is some part of that. The unlawful creation, possession, or dissemination of sexually expressive images, the promoting and directing of an obscene sexual performance by a minor, promoting a sexual performance by a minor, promoting obscenity to minors, terrorizing, simple assault, conspiracy, and one matter I'm going to mention two, controlled substances, possession and use of controlled substances. Again, that list is not exhaustive. It gives you a bit of the framework of the investigation itself. And just as soon as we are able to get to the point where it's appropriate, the timing is right, we will be turning over the fruits of our investigation to the Cass County State's Attorney's Office, to Kim Hedvig and her capable folks who will be going through making decisions. Some number of these students are adults. They've reached the age of 18. Some significant number of them are juveniles. So that'll be another not parting of the ways, but differing tracks. And those matters will be sorted out by the state's attorney's office going forward. And we're here to make sure that our investigation is as thorough as it needs to be, as cautiously conducted, as warranted by the sensitive setting of a school, several schools involved. And I just tell you that we've gone through, now we've got, a little over 50 phones so far, probably gone through 7, 8, or 9. So there's a ways to go on this matter. And cannot thank RBCI enough for your expertise, but also your diligent attention to this. We know that you're working around the clock to make sure that the things move forward in as expeditious a fashion as we can responsibly make it move forward. With that, I'll take any questions that you have, and if I can't answer it, I just can't today, but in the fullness of time, this will all be shared. Yeah.
Cass County, Fargo PD, Cass County, case prosecuted in Cass County. Why is your office speaking on on behalf of this?
To the issue, we have statewide jurisdiction, obviously. We have agents all over. We have multiple agents here in Cass County and elsewhere. The biggest part of that is it began with West Fargo, where the SRO, of course, brought it to the police department in West Fargo. And then based on the subject, it's a subject matter thing. I mean, we've got multiple forensic investigators with the expertise. They investigate these for federal court, state court, all over. So it's subject matter, but also, we also have the physical jurisdiction over here. But it came to us, and we appreciate West Fargo Police not just bringing it to us and dropping it off, by the way, continuing to work on the matter, utilizing and leveraging the expertise of the BCI investigators.
Can you say the age of the victims we're talking about, like roughly, and how many victims are we talking about?
All I'll say on that is, and I did say that the young lady who was the initial victim that was brought to the attention of the SRO, school resource officer, she's a middle school student in West Fargo right now. Just going to leave it at that. But she was 2 years younger than that when the image was initially created and then started to be shared. No, I'm sorry. Your other question was how many victims? There are many. There are several, and I don't have the exact number for you. No.
Are all the involved parties in this, I mean, you said now there are some adults, but are all of them students? All these are current or former students? Can you talk about that?
They're current or former. Have any of the 18-year-olds graduated from high school already? They left high school? Okay. No, they're all still in high school. I'm not going to, well, the focus has been over there because that's where the investigation led, but I'm going to leave it at that for now. I mean, I'm not going to compartmentalize and say that it's just going to be Davies.
From what you know so far,
through.
could any of these charges be moved to the federal level?
They could. They could be. Yes. There are applicable federal statutes. For now, this is remaining here to be addressed by what we see. My intention is, I obviously have plenty of familiarity with the federal court system too after 10 years as U.S. Attorney, but it's my intention now to present this to the Cass County State's Attorney's Office under the state statutes.
Hello, thank you for the work you do. And my question is, how many of the victims are from the 5 federally recognized reservations in North Dakota? And I would also like to acknowledge that today is Truth and Reconciliation Day, known as Orange Shirt Day, a day to remember the atrocities of United States boarding schools. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. To answer that, I haven't broken down the demographics of that yet. Also, we're doing our utmost to. I don't want people's imaginations to start going thinking that they understand which student this might be, or that might be either as a victim or someone who's been is a subject of our investigation. So we're not releasing those materials and what grade numbers and all of that yet. At an appropriate time, that will become apparent to folks, depending on where these cases proceed. I don't presume to know what the charging decisions will be or not be on that. We're just putting together the information and gathering that. But we really want to refrain from too much detail about the individuals that are involved, either as victims or subjects, because it's not our goal to heap derision on folks or have people understand maybe someone else they want to harass or have a difficult time with. I'll leave it at that. But I understand the question.
So when did I just want to confirm this, the investigation began in 2023 then? You said 2 years ago?
No, the investigation began in May of 2025, but the image that the law enforcement eventually had in our possession and we were investigated, we were able to show that it was created in 2 years prior.
And then my final question for you is, have you guys made any arrests in this?
We have not made any arrests, no.
2 questions here. So is AI involved in some of these images, and what's kind of your message to parents then about the dangers of AI in this situation?
Yeah, I mean, it's the reality. It's like the dangers of thunderstorms, right? They're real, and it's there, and it's not going away. And so, yes, AI was used in a great number of the images that we've already found. As I told you, we've only made it through a fraction of these phones that have now been taken into custody pursuant to the search warrants. And the images, I mean, it's the reality. I tell people all the time, I think anybody who's in public life should just be ready. I mean, this is life. People are doing this. They don't like someone else in their corporation, or they're mad at somebody, and they go out there, they can make images, they can do it tomorrow. The difference is, Commissioner Turnberg and I, we've got a platform. We can address that. Somebody pulls a stunt like that. These kids don't have that platform. And they're feeling pretty isolated and alone. And you can about imagine in the school setting. So to the folks, I mean, I'm blessed. I'm a father of 3. I understand the challenges of this. Just having your kids in the school, let alone whether they're touched immediately directly by this or not, it's very, very challenging and stressful. And it sparks a lot of conversations, including between me and my youngest child, who's 17. Last night, I think a lot of conversations are going on because, yep, these tools exist, and yes, they can be used for nefarious purpose, and they are being used for that, and people need to understand there's nothing funny about it. It is illegal. It is illegal. It is detectable, and when it gets into the hands of law enforcement, we have the responsibility to pursue it. Legislatures are all around the country, including here in North Dakota, are grappling with this and just coming to terms with it. And I spoke with legislators in this last session who initially, understandably, thought to themselves, well, if it's not a real image, and they went through the whole thing, and then they realized, oh, it's her real face, but then they create AI images of all sorts of inappropriate conduct and things, and so easy to see how that's harassing and debasing and undermining the emotional well-being of that young person or whomever it might be. So it's a lot that people are getting used to, but there's no substitute for engagement with your kid. I'm not going to lecture other people how to raise their kids, but there's no substitute for that level of communication, really candidly, about super uncomfortable topics.
And other question, you mentioned we have some people of age who are over 18, some under 18. If some are charged as juvenile with some of these sex offenses, are juveniles required to sometimes register as a sex offender, or is that just adults if they're convicted?
Renata, I'll let you answer. Are there some provisions where a juvenile does have to, I think. Okay, there. Were you able to hear that? Yeah, it's situational. But I haven't prosecuted juvenile cases here in North Dakota personally, but even so, whatever the circumstance that might be, it's when people learn of the images and what's being shared, and I would say how people are being victimized, they realize there's nothing remotely humorous about it, and they'll understand why our state legislature and legislatures all across this country have made these materials illegal, and why they have made the artificial creation of these materials illegal. And law enforcement is stepping up to the plate to ensure that those provisions are enforced because they're important.
So I have two questions. One, I know you said that you mentioned that there's been over 70 phones that have been investigated. Now,
Over 50.
Over 50 phones have been investigated. Do we know if this is just from one school? Is there multiple schools that are being investigated with students with this shared images, or we don't know?
Well, the schools, not to parse words, the schools aren't being investigated. The schools are being applauded, frankly, because they're doing a really good job of engaging with us on this and helping us ensure that the young people involved are being cared for. And so there are more schools involved than Fargo Davies, but that has been the focus. That's where most of the students, but there are other schools involved. I'll just leave it at that for now. In the fullness of time, this will become aware. But as you can imagine, what we know now, we know after going into, a small number, a fifth of the phones so far, and we have substantial information involving a number of young people. Matters like this have a way of blossoming, not withering. But I still want to caution people. Anyone who imagines that we're now out there now just kind of going on a goose chase, let's see what we can find about the young people in this community. This is a great community. I'm around young people, my kiddos and their friends, and they're not perfect by any stretch. That's not what I'm saying, but let's not get to a place where we, go too broadly with that, and we're not either. We're focused on serious criminal conduct of a subgroup of students, even within one school, just a small number relative to the size of that school. It's a very significant matter, but it's going to be constrained just by that, by the unlawful acts of some. That's what will keep us going down the path as the evidence leads us.
And I know this is the one case that you guys are investigating right now, but in general, is this an issue? Like, is social media, like images being spread around, has this been an issue within like the past several years or so prior to the cell phone ban taking place?
It's a very significant issue. The chief deputy has been working on this assiduously over the last few years since she started in her role, working with the legislature and others because of the fact this area of law and law enforcement is really, really burgeoning around the United States out of necessity. These great tools, right? These phones, these great tools for so much good can be turned quite easily to nefarious purpose also, and it's happening somewhat too routinely. And I think as you look at this, we're talking about so far predominantly one school with over 50 phones seized as a result of how quickly this sort of thing metastasizes. It doesn't take much to hit send to whatever size group you want. And when they get those images, each one of those young people had to make a decision. Did they want it to stop with them, or did they want it to continue to spread it to others? That's an important choice. There are young people making that choice today. Maybe they'll see what's happening, and maybe they'll conclude otherwise, different from how they would have concluded a week ago. And parents need to be made aware, and we want to do that. That these are not, kids will be kids situations. That's not the component of this that we are pursuing. We are pursuing the troubling components where people are victimizing other people, sharing it broadly, and undermining and debasing that human being in so doing. So yeah, it's if it happened once, it'd be too many times. It's happening broadly, and as we stand here today, it's widening, not just in this community by any stretch. And there's got to be more communication about it. More's got to be done to make people make different decisions. That young man or woman who gets that sent to them, there's nothing they can do. They can't make that stop. They didn't see it coming from a mile away, but they get to decide whether they want to delete that thing, get rid of it, or they want to share it with someone else. Do they want to become part of the problem? Do they want to become part of the conspiracy, which makes them part of the crime, to victimize these people who have had these images created of them or taken of them?
Mr. Attorney General, can you speak to whether there has been any disciplinary action in the form of expulsion, suspensions at Davies High School? And if so, under what obligation is the school district required to continue their education in some form?
Those are matters squarely for your superintendent and the administrators at the school. I'm not expert on those matters and not aware of any actions that have been taken yet. I understand this is fresh, right? This is just in the last days that the first warrant executed on the 22nd. And so Mr. Steiner wasn't able to be here today, but we applaud his efforts to collaborate on this investigation. And then, the consequences of what that's going to be will be for the administrators and the superintendent's office and the school board and others to determine. Also, keeping in mind that although these people haven't yet left the halls of a school, if and when someone ends up accused of a crime, because a charging decision has been made, they're accused of a crime. So that's important. Sometimes people think the prosecutors don't keep that in mind. We keep that squarely in mind in the work that we do, and so does the court system. And I'll say it again, we also are remaining keenly focused on the fact that we're in a very sensitive setting where there are a lot more kids that have had nothing to do with this than there are people who are involved with it. And it can be anxious and distracting for all of them. That's That's why I said earlier swiftly. We want to move as swiftly as we can responsibly do, so the focus can remain on what it should remain on.
Attorney General Bobby Fallon, Valley News Live. Thank you for being here. My question for you is, you did speak a little bit about the charges possibly sending to the Cass County Attorney's Office. For the students that are 18 who are adults, when do we think that those charges can officially be filed? Can we expect something in the next 30 days, at the end of 2025? Is there a ballpark of when exactly things will officially be filed?
Yeah, no, I'm not going to be able to give you a date certain on when we intend to bring our materials and give them to State's Attorney Hedvig and her staff. And when we do, there's no deadline on what what their timeline would be for making that decision, and I don't presume to urge another prosecutor in that direction. But I can tell you we do want to, and we are going to move as expeditiously as we can do responsibly with the information that we've already gathered. And you don't let perfect be the enemy of, you don't get them all together and then bring them all at once. As we make decisions going along about what we're going to be presenting over there to the State's Attorney's Office, we're going to do that. So it won't be one fell swoop, though. Investigations, these are of individual people, so investigations proceed at different rates. And there could be something happening off of one phone that is just that one, and that has 3 new avenues for investigation that will slow that one down in particular. You just don't know. I mean, I could sit here and pontificate all day about all the different avenues, but we're pursuing the appropriate avenues, and at the same time, no one should imagine that we're just sitting around with these phones saying, oh gosh, I don't like the sound of that text, and I don't like the look of that picture, what else can we do? Nobody is looking to jam up young people, to use one of their phrases, or anything else. We're looking to address serious criminal conduct for individual people. This is an individualized thing. And I told you that a few of the phones have already been returned. That decision's already been made, that person's conduct, although their phone was appropriately seized because it did have these images that had been sent to it, in conjunction with the discussions with those parents and the assessment of the phones themselves, it was determined by our agents in conjunction with the Cass County State's Attorney's Office, and we thank Ms. Selzer for her guidance of our agents in that regard. The phones were returned. So that will be the result sometimes too.
I have one kind of clarifying question I just want to make sure I ask. We're talking about, you started, it was an investigation into one image of one student that was discovered to be 2 years old that may or may not have been manipulated by AI. During that investigation, we have found more images of other students that may have been victimized?
Several other students, yes.
Okay.
Several other students of varying ages, some AI generated, some not. But where AI generated, to be clear, we've identified the victim, the young woman in each of those instances who was depicted in the AI image. Face remains intact, and then they concoct some inappropriate image attached to that individual, which of course in reality is not, but it's a difficult circumstance for that person, for sure. Any other questions?
Yeah, just another clarifying off hers. So there's more than one victim, because you just said there's one image AI generated that's been shared. So
That started the investigation, yeah. That was the entry point to the investigation.
Okay.
And then after proceeding to the point where our agents could present some materials to Snapchat, then Snapchat spent a couple of months. It was May through the end of August, right? Compiling information, compliance, and that was, they've got the whole tree. I know everybody's thinks like, oh, it's deleted or it's gone. It's not gone. We got it through the legal process, and it webbed out. And then you identify the phones that have these materials on it with the information that you got back from Snapchat or whomever. And now it goes, it's like branches of a tree, right? So that they're all out. It's all on these phones. Well, then when you go to those phones and the BCI agents take them and they hook them up to the right equipment and it's like opening up a drawer and you see the images that are there and you can detect whether images were shared with others. Were they shared with others, or did that person delete the image? Or maybe just keep it on their phone, whatever. I mean, the circumstances are going to be there, but it's an electronic footprint and it can't be erased. So yeah, we end up from that entry point of that one image that gets reported to the school resource officer who is dealing with a young person who's being harassed. Go to the West Fargo police, and then it just blossomed from there as we got to Snapchat and got the information. So now we've got multiple victims right here in this community.
And then the second question is, speaking of Snapchat, I know there was a case here recently in Cass County where the warrant wasn't served on Snapchat fast enough. That stuff disappears. Did the AI generated images though help because those footprints were still there to help maybe solidify your case? Do you understand what I'm asking?
You're so far above my understanding of those matters. I know we have people here who can talk to you afterward and answer that question, but there are things that happen electronically. When I say before, it's a fingerprint and it's there for some things happen, but it's inalterable to the degree that you find it. That's true. I mean, you find the image is what it is, and we'll see what happens as we continue to go through those phones. There's phones as we speak. They're being evaluated and downloaded and accessed. Several of the families have been cooperative, giving passwords for the phone. Whether they give password for the phone or not, we're getting in the phone. We don't need the password, but it's helpful. It helps things move along more quickly, including for the people who got their phones back because it was determined that they had just received these matters. Nobody could prove under what circumstances, but that they had it. We thank the parents for that, and encourage others to continue to cooperate or cooperate up ahead. There are people; those are difficult phone calls to get from law enforcement about your youngster, and like I said, we appreciate the cooperation.
So we know that this is an issue with AI images. What do you think really needs to happen in the future to, not have these situations come up again, and where students are sharing photos, or not even students, but just people in general sharing AI-generated images? I know that there was something in the legislative that was talking about AI images, but what do you think needs to happen on our level just to make sure that this doesn't occur?
What we're doing in this room right now, for one, awareness has to be heightened for parents and guardians of youngsters and others. It's not just young people, as we know. We're doing these matters. It's a little bit like the flu. I'm not going to eradicate the flu, but we can teach people how it is that you can avoid that to a degree. We can't make the phone incapable of doing the things that were done in this instance. We can't make phones incapable of doing that. But you can educate people about the dangers of these materials, the illegality of creating these materials and then sharing them. You can elevate awareness of the victims. I think there is some perception. I don't know, I'll leave for you to say how wide. I think there's some perception that, I bet that's embarrassing. It's more than embarrassing. It's debasing. And it's durable. It doesn't go away. They understand it's on the internet. It is permanent. They are sending it out. They're blasting it out to all sorts of folks and showing it to who? And when I walk into a room, who has seen that image? You know, there are instances where a young person took a picture of themselves and a video and sends it to a boyfriend. Now he's not her boyfriend anymore, and he's got friends that he thinks need to be aware of this. Well, he's not just being a punk, and he is being a punk. He's committing a crime. He's committing a serious crime. In several instances, a felony crime, because of the damage that it does to the victims. So that's what we can do. We can try to elevate understanding about it. It's another matter for people to talk about with the young people in their lives. And awareness, I'm strongly of the belief that awareness and engagement on this topic will benefit society and communities and individuals on this issue. We do it on all sorts of public health matters. This is, in a very significant way, a public health matter. I think people's views on smoking have changed over the last decades. People need to understand these are not playful pranks. There's nothing about it that fits that category. They are serious crimes. And serious crimes, by the way, not just because it says it in our crimes code. Think about what it does to that human being. Mr. Sternberg?
I imagine that these youth and some adults are using Snapchat under the idea that the images will go away. With your forensics, are you able to recapture those images and actually they don't go away?
That's how, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but that's how we get them. And Jesse, come on up here. Jesse Smith is a special agent with the BCI, quite expert in these matters. Answer the question, whether it's on the phone or was it that Snapchat still has it, so we got it from them.
So there's
And
many,
then I'll correct what he says, because I'm kind of at a different level.
so there are many different variables that come into play when it comes to Snapchat. Do they save the image? Do they send it? And all the times that they do something to the image, manipulate it, it sort of saves it in a different place on that phone. So if I just get it one place, it's in one chat thread. If I send it somewhere else, it could exist in that chat thread as an outgoing message. And it's the same thing with the Snapchat platform. Depending on how many people in the group and what individuals in that group do to those messages, it depends if that image is saved or if it disappears.
Does a Snapchat image ever really go away? I mean, you can save them, but if you don't, theoretically, it's supposed to just expire. But are you able to use your forensics to recapture that?
Yes. So basically, if you view an image, it creates a thumbnail that was displayed on that phone, and it can be recovered on the device.
Thanks, Jesse. Thanks. Jesse and then Special Agent Christy Solberg have been working a lot on this in the last days, and several other people at the BCI. Jim Shaw, seated behind them, is overseeing their efforts. He taught me everything I need to know on this in the last days, but now we appreciate that. There's a lot of folks. What would you say the number was? We have 13 folks working on this, just in our, a lot of people just working on it at BCI. Really trying to, again, respect the fact that it's a matter that needs to move through to completion and presentation to the state's attorney. All right. Anything else? Thanks very much. I appreciate the questions.